US Nationals is 3 very short weeks away, which means I have a ton of testing to do and not enough time to do it in. You guys are probably aware that I've been playing a lot of Cindra lately because I think she's in a pretty good spot in the meta, and I think she attacks the meta in a very interesting way. One of the things that makes Cindra really interesting is that you can build her in a couple of different ways. Some people are firm believers that a more redline approach to the deck and playing like 0 to 3 blues is really efficient and lines you up better in specific matchups. And then there are other people who believe that 9 to 12 blues makes the deck more consistent and really helps you out across the bigger array of the field here. So in today's video, we're going to break down both the Redline deck, the Blueline deck, and the pros and the cons for each of them so that you can be prepared to attack your metagame. Thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope you enjoy the video. The first list we're going to be talking about is the Redline list. Now, the Redline list is on minimal blues, trying to use as many 0 for 3s and 0 for 4s as possible to try to be able to pressure people into giving them mask momentum. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the lists because the lists are, pretty universally standard in a lot of ways, but I want to be able to break down the differences for you. So when we look at our list, you'll notice there's a ton of 3-ups. We're on 3 Ancestral Empowerment, 3 Art of the Dragon Blood, 3 Blaze Headlong, 3 Blood Runs Deep, 3 Brand, 3 Burning Blade Dance. We're on 3 Cut Through. Cut Through is really the first card we see that's going to be a little different between what we see in our Redline versus our Blueline deck. If we keep looking at the rest of the list here, we have Demonstrate Devotion, Display Loyalty, Hot on Their Heels, Hunt the Hunter, which is a very solid 1 for 5, 3 copies of Ignite. This helps us throw our daggers in situations because we're on less blues. We're only on 2 Lava Burst to make room for that Wrath of Retribution. We have 3 March of Loyalty, 3 Oath of Loyalty, 3 Ravenous Rabble, and 3 Rising Resentment. Now, a lot of the deck is 3-ups all the way across the board, and you'll notice that a lot of these cards have a 0 cost in the top right-hand corner of them. That is by design. We're only playing 3 Throw Daggers as a way to be able to throw the daggers when we need to, like play the Kunai of Retribution, or play Throw Daggers to be able to keep our Mask of Momentum Chain Link alive and draw an extra card. You'll also notice that there are only 6 cards in this deck that have the 1 cost on them. We have 3 Hunt the Hunter and 3 Demonstrate Devotion. We're on very minimal blues, so we're trying to play as many 0 cost cards as we can. Now, Blood Runs Deep does cost 2, but it's effectively a 0 for 4 when we think about it in a sense, because we're trying to make sure that it's free. So looking at this list here, we have a lot of low to the ground attacks. We don't have a lot of blues. And then looking at our sideboard here, we do have some other equipment pieces we can sub in and out. We have some defense reactions. I'm a big fan of Blanche as a popper. That's a personal take. And then Sound the Alarm has been really, really good into Assassins and the Warrior class. And I also really like Warmonger's Diplomacy to help us into Azalea. It's good into Vincent, and it can also be an extra blue if we need it to. So the Redline list is really low to the ground and trying to go 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4 as many times as possible in one turn. The second list we're going to take a look at is our blue list. We're on 9 main deck blues, and then we have some more in the side to kind of supplement our game plan. But if you're looking at the top here, we have 2 Ancestral Empowerment, 2 Art of the Dragon Blood, 3 Art of the Dragon Fire, a card we didn't see in the all Redline list, Blaze Headlong, only 2 copies of Blood Run Deep. We're on 3 Brand, 3 Burning Blade Dance, 3 Demonstrate Devotion, 3 Display Loyalty, 3 Hot on Their Heels, 2 Hunt the Hunter, 3 Ignite, 2 Lava Burst, 2 Oath of Loyalty, 3 Rising Resentment. We're also on Spreading Flames in this list. Now, we're only on 2 because we're making room for other cards, but Spreading Flames is a great addition to the deck when we're able to add in those extra blues to supplement our game plan. We're also on Wrath of Retribution, and then we have 9 main deck blues in Dragon Power, Warmonger's Diplomacy, and Throw Dagger. Dragon Power and Throw Dagger are the 2 most powerful blues in the Cindra list class that we have options to, and then Warmonger's is actually pretty solid in the metagame right now. So this kind of helps round out our entire list here that we're looking at. And then when we look at our sideboard, we have 2 Art of the Dragon Scale, we have 3 Breaking Point, we're on some defense reactions. Imperial Seal of Command is in both lists. I think the card's just too good. We're also on 3 Sound the Alarm, and then we're on a 1 of Tenacity. Now, the biggest difference you noticed here is that we get more access to one cost in the sideboard. Because we're on more blues, we have access to be able to utilize more resources, throwing our daggers, things like that, giving us more access to one cost cards in our sideboard, helping us shore up some other matchups. So now that we've taken a moment to talk about each list and what we're playing, let's talk about the pros and the cons of each list so that you know which one you'll like the best. The first list we're going to talk about is the Blueline deck, and there are 4 big pros to playing 9 to 12 blues in your Cindra list. The first one is really involved around daggers and fatigue. So when we think about getting fatigued, generally decks that are just 0 for 3s and 0 for 4s are trading a card for a card. You're not able to push that much life over, and sometimes you can kind of just stall out of the game. But when we think about Cindra, think of these blues and these daggers as a way to play around fatigue. Being able to just cycle the daggers every turn by throwing them here or there is really great ping damage. You kind of lean into the Kodachi aspect of things where you're like less fatigable. And then it's also really good because you're also utilizing flick knives to be able to throw the daggers more consistently. And then plus your blues like throw dagger are really powerful late in the game after all of your opponent's prevention effects are gone. So the daggers and the blues kind of help you play around fatigue in certain ways. Now, that first one leads me straight into my second point here as well. The daggers also help us out with Mask of Momentum. Now, when I say they help us out with Mask of Momentum, it's not always the case, but the idea is that if you have a card in Arsenal and 4 cards in hand, you can use daggers plus those 4 cards to put Mask of Momentum on the chain link twice, which means if your opponent takes the first 2 daggers and then blocks an attack, you cannot use flick knives, let that get blocked out, and then keep going with 0 for 3s and 0 for 4s, or even save a dagger for the 4th chain link to be able to set that up and keep going that turn. So it kind of helps us keep Mask of Momentum on the chain if we're able to go 6 wide, and the blues really lean into that aspect of things. The third big reason that the Blueline list had like the big pro here is that we get to play more one-cost attacks. There are a lot of powerful one-cost attacks like Art of the Dragonfire, Art of the Dragon Scale, Breaking Point that we don't really have a lot of room for in the Redline list. So being able to play those 9 to 12 blues really lets us utilize our Blood Splattered Vest and the blues in our deck to be able to throw more of these one-cost attacks, really letting us apply more pressure, which also kind of leads into us not getting fatigued, because these 1-card 5 and 1-card 7s are really powerful and give us a lot of reach at the end of the game. And the fourth big pro and thing that I want to talk about here is that we're playing better into Ice. Now, I know that there's really only one deck in the format right now, Jarl, that's even playing Ice, but having 9 to 12 blues does allow us to play around Stalagmite better. It allows us to play around Blizzard better, like Channel Lake Frigid. There's lots of options here that we can use the blues to set up for. So being able to continue to play around fatigue with your daggers is great. Leaning into Mask of Momentum even more is awesome. Utilizing more one-cost attacks out of your sideboard and then your main deck is great. And then playing into Ice, those are 4 fantastic reasons to play blues in your deck. Next up, we have the Redline version of the deck, and there are 3 reasons that I think the Redline deck does benefit a little bit more than the Blueline deck. It's really more like 2.5, but we're going to call it 3 because the third one kind of goes back and forth a little bit. The first one is that we're able to play more breakpoints in our deck. So we're able to play cards like Ancestral Empowerment. March of Loyalty is an extra 0 for 4 we get to lean into with some of the fealty generation. So we have a lot of really good breakpoint attacks, and leaning into extra Ancestral Empowerments allows us to go over the top of our opponents, really setting up Mask better. So looking at this, more breakpoints means more damage, which is great. More breakpoints into more damage takes me into my second point here. The second point we're going to talk about is more damage means faster racing. If you're playing in an extremely aggressive aggro meta, having these 0 for 4s instead of just having to throw the daggers and being like, oh, dink here and there, you're just able to throw more 0 for 4s, flick your daggers more, hit them with Blood Runs Deep more. You're just able to do more aggressive things by playing more reds in your deck and not really having to rely on any blues, because the daggers are only for 1, which means they can be a little weird sometimes and they're not as aggressive. Utilizing more of these 0 for 4s and trying to push mask more aggressively can really line up if the breakpoints line up well, which means we can race the mirror faster, we can race Dashio better, we might be able to race Marlin from the new set better. We don't really know what the next set looks like yet. We're starting to get some spoilers, but being able to race may be the play. And if we're in a super aggressive aggro meta, I'm really looking at the Redline list because I think it'll stand out pretty well. Reason like 2.5/3 here that we're going to talk about is that you're getting less dagger block. Now, this kind of goes back to my point here, but there's a lot of decks like that have equipment that blocks for 1. And when I think about this, I'm thinking about Warrior specifically. Valiant Dynamo is super obnoxious to play around, and when you're relying on your daggers, it can be super awkward because they can force you to flick a dagger very early on in the turn if you were forced to block it all during their turn. So not having to lean on your daggers can be very valuable. Not having all those blues to have to play daggers also puts us in a situation where we're not getting hurt as badly by Codex of Frailty. Codex of Frailty feels really bad in the Blueline list, unless you have like 1 blue and it's throw dagger you're going to play. But when you're leaning on having to start with daggers, a Frailty token can be really, really backbreaking for your turn. So not having to throw your daggers as much can oddly be an upside, depending on what you're playing against and how the game's going for you. Guys, based off this, let me know in the comments what you think might be better. Do you like the Blueline list or do you like the Redline list better? Also, let me know if there's any reasons or anything you think I missed. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.